Today I want to talk about mentoring younger players to be dungeon masters. So, hey everybody, how's it going? Wanted to talk about a topic that is kind of important to me, and that is developing kids into dungeon masters. Now you have two situations. One, let's say it's a group of kids and they want to play together and one of them volunteers to be dungeon master. Cool, awesome, do it, learn the game, have fun. The second situation is if a younger player comes to you and wants to dungeon master at something like a public play event. Now the only way that's really going to work, there are two ways. And I'm going to talk about how I usually mentor younger players so that they eventually can dungeon master at tables. And I'll explain why I do it. But one way it would work is, let's say you're going to have a public play event and you have the luxury of maybe having a kids table or something like that. And in that case, it's okay to have kids DMing with other kids. But if you're in what normal public play events would be, where you have a mix of adults, teens, all ages, I find it more difficult to rationalize or be able to put a younger player, especially when they're real young, as a dungeon master at a table. A lot of it has to do with lack of experience, and some of it has to do with adults not readily accepting a young player as a dungeon master. And I'm not talking like a 16, 17-year-old kid. I'm talking about like if a kid is 11, 12 years old, maybe 13, maybe even 14, depending on how mature they are or how mature they look, as to whether or not people are going to accept them as a dungeon master. And let's face it, we're going to be honest, the players have to accept the DM as well. And what I've normally done when I have a young player that wants to DM, and I'll use my daughter as an example because I use that a lot. She started playing when she was about 8. And about 11, she really started pestering. She wanted to run a table. Now, the issue that I had with that was most of the players where we play are adults, very few kids. At the time, there were very few kids. It was mostly adults. And knowing most of these players, I know they wouldn't accept her as the sole DM at a table. So what I opted to do, I had another kid who was about 17 that wanted to DM. Now he was not comfortable role-playing, but he was comfortable with combat. Where my daughter enjoyed role-playing the NPCs and stuff like that. So what I did is I had them co-DM the table. And I played at that table so I could monitor and make sure both of them knew what they were doing, and just quietly let them run the table. And that, I think, helped because I would also seat new players at the table. And once they saw the coordinator was sitting there, I think that helped. But the reality was we had an older kid who was dungeon mastering, running combat, and she was doing the NPCs. Now, I let her do that for about a year, year and a half, until she hit about 13. By then, I'm going to be honest, she had already played more than most of the adults that come in. She knew the rules as good or better than the players that were in there. She's the kind of player in Dungeon Master that when she sits down, she puts stickies all over pages, so she has references, she has notes. I mean, she is very detailed, so I really didn't worry about it. But it also helped that I knew by the time I was ready to let her sit down and run a table that she was doing a good job in this position co-DMing with another dungeon master. And both of them eventually developed into good DMs. And once I felt they were both ready, that's when I split them up. I had more tables available, and I used them at their respective tables by themselves, and it was never a problem. So, I mean, I really do advocate, if you have really young players And I know a lot of older, maybe DMs and coordinators might have a problem with young players DMing, but you shouldn't. What you should do is take it where you give them the role where you are mentoring the players. Maybe you have two DMs, one that's a little older that you're comfortable with running a table, and one that's younger, and you let them co-DM. That allows them both to develop. One is going to have a strong suit, and they're each going to have a strong and a weak suit, and they can play off of that. And each of them will develop those weak points together, because that's just the way it's always worked. I've done this with several younger players where I've had them co-DM with an older player who wanted to DM, but neither of them were really comfortable. And let's be honest, the young kids are always like, yeah, I can do it, I'll be fine. But the truth is, they're probably not going to be fine if you sit them down, like I said, with a bunch of adults. There could be an issue where the adults, and I wouldn't allow it, I would end up kicking the adults, but I don't want it to happen where they think they can push over the younger player. And I've always told my DMs, regardless of age, it's your table, maintain control of it, and don't let players push you around. And don't be afraid to come to me, because I will tell them to calm down or get out. But the reality is, it's really an opportunity if you want to, as a DM who's older, let a younger player sit down and mentor them as a DM, and give them a couple of years where they're maybe doing the role play. Maybe they're really good at combat, who knows? Let them do some of the combat, but have them work with you where you're mentoring them and they're ready to move into a DM position in another, say, 2 years, depending on their age, where that they are old and mature enough where you know they can handle the table by themselves, and you're comfortable knowing that they know the rules and they're ready to go. I think a lot of times, even with adult DMs that are new, we just let them jump in not knowing what they're doing, and it can cause issues at a table where all of a sudden, players come and say, oh, we did this, this, and this, and if you're running Adventures League, none of it's legal because they're basically home brewing at your table. And like in a situation where I am, I've got 20 tables every week, 21 now, and I can't monitor all of them. I'm not even in earshot of the majority of them, so I don't know what's going on. So I make sure I go around to each table each week, talk to the DMs, talk to the players, see what's going on, and I know what's happening, make sure all the DMs are on the same page, that everything's legal, and there are no issues coming up. But, most shops don't have 21 tables. They've got a reasonable amount, and a lot of times you're desperate for DMs and you just put anybody down. And I'll be honest, some of the kids that I have sat down are better at the rules than some of the adults. And it's because they really get into it and read more. I mean, like my daughter, I don't see that many dungeon masters that have everything dog-eared. They have notes, they have an index and a notepad where they say, well, this, and this is here, here, and here, and they know exactly what they're doing. So, I mean, she is so on top of it when she's DMing, it's insane. She is more organized than I am. So, but I mean, I've gotten after 40 years of playing where I just go with the flow. But she's got her way, and honestly, no one pulls anything over on her. She knows the rules, she knows the spells, she knows the stuff, and if they argue with her, she's always right. It's crazy. But yeah, if you have younger players that want to DM and you feel they're too young, then take the mentoring approach. Have them sit down with you and co-DM with you. And remember, if you're at public play events, you're there to nurture both players and dungeon masters so that they develop. And you've got somebody that wants to DM, let them sit with you, let them co-DM with you, let them help with running the table, and you'll be surprised. Not long, you'll feel comfortable when they're a little older, putting them at a table and running it. And if you're lucky, you'll have a lot of kids coming in, and so they may be more comfortable playing with a kid as a dungeon master than an old guy or an older person. So it's to your benefit to have them ready to roll if you have something like that come in. And everybody will probably have a lot of fun. I mean, I always see it happen, and I wouldn't worry about it. But that's what I would do. Mentor your young players, develop them in the DMs, and eventually, let them go on their own. You'll find that this works really well with the young players. They feel like they're, they get bored. They get bored just playing. They want to run a table. And if you let them run with you, Let them be as active as they want to be. Have fun with it. Have fun developing these players into Dungeon Masters. You know, you don't have to be a control freak at your table and run everything like, you know, like you're a field marshal there. Give up some control. Let the younger players develop, and you can sit there and mentor them and make sure that they're doing things right. And once you know they're doing everything right, let them go. Let them run on their own, and you'll be fine. But that's it for today. I may do another video the next, either tomorrow or Wednesday. I played with the new 4K camera and the gimbal this weekend at an event we went to, which I wasn't gaming related, so I won't put it up here. It was a 3K walk for dogs for charity. I don't know, maybe I'll put something up, maybe I won't, but I'm getting used to the gimbal, but the footage off of that camera was freaking awesome. So I think I'm going to try to record something tomorrow or the next day, and we'll move forward doing that. I don't want to be one of these YouTubers that is just a talking head sitting at a desk with a green screen behind me. I mean, that's fine if I'm playing a game, but you know, I don't want to sit inside and do my stuff. I want to get out, walk, talk, and do that. And I can always do cutscenes or whatever if I want to put stuff down for books or reviews. But I'm going to do everything where I'm out and about from now on. But that's it. I will see everybody next time. Remember to like and subscribe, and talk to you later. Have a good one.